Welcome to another skill tree guide here in a Total War Saga Troy. This is for Rhesus of Thrace, and he is a leader that can get a combination of skills and abilities to really help out growth, happiness, devotion gain, which is the unique faction resource of the Thrace faction, along with AoE abilities that heavily decrease defensive and morale stats of the enemy while boosting up the melee attack and melee defense of units around him with a very unique ability called Fearless Resolve that also can give a lot of charge bonus and a 50-meter AoE, stamina across this AoE in 20 seconds, freezing stamina loss, so you net gain that stamina that you are gaining over 20 seconds, and also giving Strider, which is great for heavy and also for large units, along with chariots, which is really actually where you really want to focus the skill on. So let's go one by one through all the skills that you can select to really create this hard-hitting AoE awesome ability based hero. So he starts out with Leader of Men. That's an ability that costs 40 rage when you start out, but you can actually lower it to 32. It's an AoE around him about 40 meters, which is a pretty good AoE range, and it gives plus 10% melee attack and plus 10% melee defense across 40 seconds with a 135 second cooldown, which is also, I believe, decreased through a selected skill. Really great skill to give, for example, chariots and AoE around him to really make sure that they get hit less, and the units around him, including himself, also have a higher probability of hitting the enemy. Continuing, Seize the Moment affects a single enemy in a 60-meter distance away from our hero, and this skill is really powerful for potentially causing a general or a very defensive unit to potentially be hit more over time by heavily decreasing their melee defense by 50%, and also causing them to have a higher chance of getting hit by a higher magnitude of base weapon damage by lowering the armor of said unit by 25%. The rage cost is 40 with a 90-second cooldown, and it lasts 40 seconds just like Leader of Men. A really powerful skill which is really good to get in the early game, and I prefer to get this over Divine Focus as I really don't want to use Rhesus as a hard-hitting hero, and also I don't want to add a skill that causes a lot of rage usage over time, as he has many other skills that cause rage that, when combined with Seize the Moment, can be used in a continuous or actually parallel manner to really affect a lot of units. Generous Host is also great to select, given that Stalwart, I really don't see it as something really advantageous to go for. In the early game, you get Generous Host and you get Happiness and Growth, and what this does is that when he is garrisoned, he can give up to 8 happiness and plus 40 growth in the local province, not when garrisoned, just being in a province. This is really valuable, especially in legendary difficulty, where there is a -8 happiness penalty faction wide, and also there's a, across any difficulty, a -10 happiness penalty the turn that you occupy a settlement. So you can cause at least one settlement when you're garrisoned to net cancel the legendary difficulty loss, or to also cause you to not get hit so hard by the -10 happiness when you acquire a new region. And the plus 40 growth is also something that's really good to get as you keep progressing throughout the provinces that you are acquiring with this man's army. Now, Formation Specialist is good to get because it can be a really advantageous skill for missile units, giving them good missile resistance, and you can also give missile resistance for all units and heroes army of 4%, but additionally you get plus 15% ammunition for missile units and a 10% reduction to reload time. So it's really strong skill to have for Thracian. I think archers are the tier 4 unit, which is a pretty strong unit. Now, Drill Expert, if you want to make an army that has no missile units, which I don't recommend, you should at least have 4 missile units in your army, especially very useful in sieges. You can then go for Drill Expert to get more recruit rank for units, which is also really powerful to have, but not necessarily if you're always going to have missile units in your army. Formation Specialist is something to always go for, and all your units will get missile resistance of 4%, which is really valuable for his most elite units, which do not have any shield block chance. So missile resistance will at least reduce the impact of how much the missile damage is when they get hit by it. Now the next skill is Zealot of the Gods or Zealot of Olympus. So this one's a very tricky one to go for. Now the one that gives you more devotion over time is Zealot of Olympus. It gives you 50% to devotion from activated divine offerings ritual after a successful battle. So when you do a battle and you have any divine offerings activated, you can get up to +2 devotion upon a victorious battle. Every single time you do a battle, this can become +3 from that skill. So that's really good. The problem though is that the upgrades to Zealot of Olympus, I don't see them as worthwhile as the upgrade of Host Replenishment from Zealot of the Old Gods. So Host Replenishment will give countless host armies in the province that Rhesus is found in 10% replenishment. Note that countless host armies do not replenish unless they get that replenishment or the sacrifice to Jebel-Lazis is activated, which gives plus 30% to replenishment for countless host armies. The thing is that I don't really want to give this or get the sacrifice, as there are other great ones that you can use, like a minus 10% to upkeep cost for all units faction wide. You can also get plus 10% to melee attack of own armies and plus 10 morale to all units faction wide, not just 10 morale to countless host armies from that sacrifice. You don't really want to spend your turns for sacrifice in this specific one just for countless host armies when you can get extra campaign movement range, more morale and melee attack for own armies, less upkeep cost for all units, or more replenishment rate, or minus 25% to fatigue of one unit in battle. So it's great to go for this upgrade so your countless host armies are moving in tandem with your main army and they're all replenishing together. Note that once you get countless host armies to tier 5 or tier 6, you can get to a point where they can or they can be reinforced. So you can then get 3 armies with Rhesus to engage a settlement, and all of them will be reinforcing each other, which is freaking crazy for auto resolve. Or if you want to do the battle to just basically have a ton of units, 40, if any of them rout, you get at least 40 more over time as a unit gets out of the battlefield, which is really powerful. So continuing in the skills, Fearless Resolve is a phenomenal skill. It's only 20 seconds that it's activated. It's a 50-meter AoE around Rhesus, and it gives 30% more charge bonus, 15% more stamina over 20 seconds. It freezes stamina loss, and it gives Strider, which is an unbelievable buff to give to chariot units. Something just unbelievable to have, especially when you get these freaking powerful Mares of Diomedes that are super heavy mass, heavy chariot weight class, but they're heavy mass, and they get freaking Furious Charge, which means that if they hit an enemy from the front, they apply flanking penalties, the morale and the flank, I think, and or the melee defense. I'm not 100% sure if the melee defense also decreases, like if they, or if it's just the morale of effect, but just a crazy good thing to give of an ability to these units, so they conditionally do not lose all these stats over time from stamina loss. They hit super hard the first 18 seconds of an engagement from that extra charge bonus, and they don't get penalized by the terrain. Awesome skill to be using. Now next, I like to go for Bloodthirst instead of heavy weapon. I don't care about boosting his 1v1 capabilities or his capabilities against units, because I have so many powerful units. I want to make sure that I can use as many abilities as possible. So Bloodthirst can give you rage out of combat, and it increases rage gain when in combat. Usually you only gain rage when in combat, so this gives you I think it's +2 rage over time. It's kind of a very slow increase, but it's really valuable to get, so you can pop a skill before you even start an engagement if you wait long enough. Now I wish that Memnon actually got this skill, because I feel like he develops rage way too slow over time, and this skill would have been really good to give to him, but that's just me talking here. Next, he does get Prayer to Ares. or prior to Athena, I always like to go for boosting up melee defense if I have offensive units, and vice versa. If I have defensive units, I like to boost up the melee defense. Now, except of course if our elite units of our faction are sword units like Hector's chosen. But here, if we look at the Rhesus roster, he has great axe unit, great spear units, and the only really sword unit that he has is a tier 3 plainsman, which is good for the early game, but as you start progressing to mid to late game, this unit really falls off, so it's not really worthwhile to go for any sword unit statistical upgrades from your skills. Now continuing, Master Ambusher, I like to go over the spoiler because I don't really use him for sacking or raising purposes. So say you put him with a countless host army that can then reinforce each other. Once you get to tier 5/tier 6, then you can get melee charge bonus for the units in this army, which are all his elite units are charging units with high melee attack. So this will be really good, so when you ambush, you really inflict a lot of penalty on the enemy as long as Rhesus's army is the one that's ambushing. Now, the next thing is either Prayer to Salmoxis or False Portent. False Portent to me is too valuable to pass up. You can cost up to a 60-meter AoE, minus 15 morale. This is a AoE that can break a front line as you've progressed in causing enough damage on a front line and or if they're being flanked. So I think this is one of the best skills in the game, and you can decrease the rage cost to 48, which is great for how strong minus 15 morale is. Note that this can stack on top of the minus 10 from the Minotaur AoE, the Corybantes AoE if you're playing Mythos, and minus 20 from flanking from the rare. So you can really break a mid-tier unit from a combination of these things to really cause an engagement to just be in your favor as the enemy unit routes. Of course, for the next skill, you want to give him a reinforced melee chariot. End of story, easy peasy. You want him to be moving as fast as the chariots, along with the Fearless Resolve skill to really inflict a lot of pain on the enemy. Now, I don't like to go for Taunt, because the thing about Taunt is that it's a conditional good skill that can cause one enemy to go berserk, like a really powerful like a missile hero. You can cause him to go berserk, so he stops shooting and then he has to go into melee, which is really strong thing to do, or cause any valuable unit to be pulled into a bad engagement by using Taunt. But Mountain Roar, which is unique for this faction, can cause minus 20 morale. It's a freaking AoE around him. So all these other things that can cause like morale reductions, like flanking, Minotaur, Corybantes abilities, the skill of False Portent, can combine with Mountain Roar with a minus 20 morale penalty. I mean, what else can you ask for? And then you can give minus 40% speed and minus 25% melee defense, which can be combined with the Seize the Moment on, this is on a single unit, of course, to cause that unit to have minus 75% melee defense to really cause it to be really hit and take enough HP losses so it routes. Combat Mastery is what's causing all these skills to lower in rage cost by 20% and also lower their cooldown time. I really wish that all freaking heroes or legendary heroes in this game had Combat Mastery and Bloodthirst in campaign, because it just makes them so awesome to use in battle. But beggars can't be choosers. It's the first time I ever said that in my life. So for the final skill, you can give more morale for units, which is understated how valuable is morale in the game. But as you get to the late game, you can get so many morale boosts that gaining speed is really strong, especially in siege battles, as you need to close the distance on the enemy so you get shot less by towers, or you want to prevent missile units from hitting you, so you can get to units much faster in siege battles where speed can be killer. Land battles as well, but I think sieges is really more important. So that's it here for all his skills. Overall, I think this is one of the most funly designed heroes in this game that can really cause morale penalties, really boost up chariots where he has really heavy ones that are really strong in the game, while also being complemented with awesome charging units to really destroy the enemy really fast. I really want to thank you for watching, and I really hope to see you on the next one. Bye bye.